listen and hear the characters and the plot, and we don't see the interactions underneath the stories, and they did, and in the music, and just in all facets, we've been taught to narrow our vision, and their vision saw everything. That's my opinion. Right?
And I can see looking at a tree and seeing that, you see a different thing than you do when you're taught to look at only the...
But look at the shapes between the branches of the tree.
What I mean.
That's what they would see. They would see the tree and the shapes. Probably the best modern artist who really exemplifies that was Vincent van Gogh. If you look at his paintings, he knew negative space. So I'm going to give you one more example. This is the one example that I am famous for among little kids at all these schools I go to. I'm going to show you another example of everything I've been talking about in a modern logo for a company. A logo for a company you all know, you all see all the time, and let's see what you see in this logo. And this company has many colors on its designs. It has two colors though. Usually, well, you know what it is? FedEx, that's right. And this company has many ways of presenting their logo with designs. It's just the same logo with these different colors. Fed is usually one color, X another. Notice all the letters are linked together. So sometimes the Fed will be red and the X will be blue, or sometimes the Fed will be yellow and the X will be purple. But what I'm going to ask you to look at is the space between the E and the X.
Wow.
And what do you see?
Arrow.
An arrow. Now, a lot of people have never seen that arrow before. And it's when I just saw it yesterday. I pointed it out to someone, and they're like 28 years old. I've never seen that before. And do you know why they never saw it before? Because they were so busy looking at the E and the X, they didn't see the space between the E and the X, which is an arrow. It's clear as day. Now, why would an arrow be a good symbol for FedEx? Because they deliver. They go places quickly. And it also goes from left to right, which is the way we read, so it's perfect. But a lot of people have never seen it, but I'm sure, like we did when we didn't see the hands that were right in front of us, our eyes saw it, but our brain hadn't caught up with us yet. And so for me, this kind of Salish art is very powerful in the things our brain can't quite figure out, but our eye, our spirit understands it. So that's how Salish art works. We look at these old designs, and we look at the shapes, and we look at what's between the shapes. And I've done a few designs, like the one on my shirt is a design that I did. This design I did for my tribe. There's a language. This is Stachin, which is wolf. And so I did the design because there's, on the Olympic Peninsula, many of the tribes have wolf societies, and the wolves and spirits kind of intermix, and it's hard to just explain, but this person has been captured by wolves, and he's singing for his family, his people, to help him come back. And so the wolves are holding him down. And can you see the shapes we talk about? Circles, crescents, and trigons in the design. And inside the wolves, do you see anything?
Eagle head.
Can you see eagles' heads inside the wolves? Okay. Again, some people see a lot of shapes, and it's hard for them to add those shapes up because they're not used to it. And so these eagle heads, the beaks, the eyes, the feathers here, and so there's that. Another small example of how this kind of art works. This is an old design I did a long time ago when I was learning this art, and so hopefully you can see a person. And there's a thunderbird. The top notch means it's a thunderbird. That kind of wraparound feather on top of their head usually means thunderbird. And the ambiguity part. Is it a person with a thunderbird spirit wrapped around them, or a thunderbird spirit, or thunderbird with a very human spirit within it? I mean, that's kind of for you to figure out. Whatever you think it is, you're right. And the person then has these tails. Now notice how he lined up the bottom of the person's body by lining up all these trigons so you see that curve all the way around. Do you see that?
Yeah.
You line them up, these trigons that are in the feather, to see that. And then notice, these other trigons help you see the curve of his arm right here. And so you see him because of those shapes around him. And that takes some figuring out, some understanding of how this kind of art works. It's the shapes and what they do to define the shapes they are around. And so the negative space, we call it, technically the negative space is its own shape. So, can you see how this was constructed then? You have a sense of how I made this design? I lined up all these shapes so you can see the arm right here.
Did you make that or is that Salish?
This is Salish, but I'm Salish, so I made it.
Okay.
I'm Cloud. I thought I'd explain that. I'm Lower Elwha Clallam, which is a local tribe, a Salish tribe from the Port Angeles area, and that's a tribe I'm from. I'm also part Makah. My great-grandmother, a Clallam woman, was married in the Makah tribe, but this is the art of the Clallam people, the tribes of this area. And so this is
So
Salish
do you
design.
see that
Salish spirit, all right.
Question?
when you're drawing him, do you see him as you're drawing this? You must have to. You must be able to do that.
Well, I have my own process to do it, and every artist develops their own process to see it. But, you know, you start with kind of like a sketch of how that's going to work. I have a human, and remember I told you that Salish squat?
Yeah.
Kind of like they're bent down? Well, I did it right here, didn't I? That Salish squat. So I figure out that part, how this person is going to look. And I'm going to refine these later. We wanted to have bird claw bottom like that. Then I want my Thunderbird to wrap around him. Like that. So I figure these parts out. And it could be, I'm changing the design right now, but that's okay. And then I start to figure, so how do I connect all these things together? Well, to make you see his arms, I have to put trigons here like this, right? And over here the same thing. But these are the feathers, or the trigons. And then somehow I have to put his head in here. I have to figure that out. There's the bird's eye. And so I'm figuring out the shape, the two figures and how they interlock with my shapes. How I can connect them by all these shapes. Like right here, at his tail, I put in those trigons there. All right? So there is a process, a thinking process to link them together. And this is a very old design. It's a comb that was found buried underneath the city of Port Angeles a few years ago. It was called the Suisun Village. They found an old Clallam village under the city of Tacoma, and they excavated it. And they found many, many things, but one thing they found was a beautiful little comb design. And this is our art of our ancestors. Circles, crescents, that football curve shape, little trigons. And so the art of our people is very, very old. So I was going to show you how to make a design. I think I will do that. This kind of art is pretty simple. You draw the shape of a person, an animal, or a thing, and inside of it you put circles and crescents and trigons. That's how simple it is. So to make a salmon design, what you do is you make the shape of a salmon. So it kind of looks like what it is. You don't have to do a lot of, what is that, because it kind of looks like what it is. And then inside of this salmon shape, I'm going to put circles, crescents, and trigons. And so trigons fit very nicely inside of the fins because they're already triangular. So that works. Everybody has to figure out their own tail shape, and I'm going to, I guess, figure it out later. To make the eye of a salmon, I can go like this, make a ring, because that's what a salmon eye looks like, but I want to do that other eye, trigon, trigon, and make it look like a salmon eye. I can put a crescent for the jaw of the salmon. Is there a shape I could use for the gill of the salmon? Is there a shape for a gill?
Crescent.
A crescent is perfect because it looks just like a gill, but it's also too easy. Now, we made a circle by not making a circle. We made a hand by not making a hand. You even saw me make an arrow by not making an arrow, right? So how can I make a gill by not making a gill? And if you remember the old design I showed you first, it went like this. Trigon,